Hey, what is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to Dano Crypto. On this channel, we show you guys how to make simple, effective, and easy moves in the cryptocurrency ecosystem. So holy crap, guys. So I'm going to show you a couple charts of just blatant manipulation that's been happening with the oil futures, all of the stuff that's been happening with the Strait of Hormuz, and all of the geopolitical tension that is also causing the markets to kind of flip-flop. We got Trump taco. We have now looking like all of the claims of the negotiations and the talks and were actually not as true as what Trump has been saying. This has led to further tensions, which with further tensions means increase in oil prices. And so this is what happened. We did take the oil trade, but what's interesting is we felt like it was going to crash again. Sure enough, oil did do a scam wick down right after we closed our trade. So we might have gotten cooked on the trade anyway, but we timed it perfect. I want to show you guys this. Look at this. So not only did we get this scam candle to the downside. So you see this is on the 5 minute. You can see it. It's a blatant scam candle to the downside. You can see oil was from our entry. We got an entry in at $111 was our initial entry for oil. And with that, we closed the position at like 117, like 117, 118 or something like that. I'll have to pull it back up. But that was right. So right after we get this massive scam candle to the downside, 109. But then if you look at other oil prices, this was happening across the board. So if we go to the Telegram, I'll show you guys, and make sure you guys are in the Telegram. The link is in the description of the live stream. This was forwarded from a Dubs account. You can see that YTI oil also had a massive scam candle to the downside. You can see it was from where people were actually getting in these longs. You can see where the long support was held here at 92, brought it all the way up to 95. And then this is where we had that just boom, that wick down. So this was on a different oil chart, but it was pretty dead on with what was happening across the board on oil futures. Now, this was a way that they could really manipulate and get in these entries to then also push it up to our freaking call of price for oil futures was 120. Because if you remember, when we were looking at this on the daily chart yesterday, I was like, screw this crypto crap. I was like, we just need to be trading freaking oil futures. And look what happened. I mean, shit. Excuse my language, but man, it just... So here was the initial entry. And we're going to show you our terrible trades that we got into. We basically just gave all of our gains right back to the market. So here was the initial oil trade. Here was the initial oil trade. The entry was, 111. We got it right at the almost at the bottom, like right on this, basically right at that candle. And you can see where they basically brought it right, they wicked it right back down into 109 to where people initially got those same, probably similar entry points. So either liquidating them, depending on what the leverage was, wiping out the stop losses, completely stopping people out, and also liquidating them, and then sending it right back to the upside. So, it's diabolical. It's diabolical. So all the while, crypto is completely selling off and actually looking like it's going to go into the bear flag pattern that had played out just a few weeks prior. And we'll look at that. And so in that, if we close the oil trade, saw that manipulation, we ended up trying to go long again at 117, and it got cooked. You can see it right here. Just completely. And then we thought, okay, 2K ETH, like surely. hold on. because this was just so, it was so bad. I just want to show you guys how bad, you know, our trades were, because it was just like, it was like we were right, and then we were completely wrong. Right and wrong all at the same time. Terrible. So we go long Ethereum right here, thinking that we finally, okay, surely we will find some support here, right here. No, they just cooked us again. So it's looking like we could be going for some levels for ETH. Yep, that one. And then also that was a really also just terrible trade. Should have just stayed completely in the thesis of just like, all right, probably should be longing oil right now because I don't think tensions are going to ease. They're just going to escalate. And it seems like this is going to be a drawn out thing for probably the rest of the year. And with that, oil prices would go to 150, 200, and it also could spike around and continue to do stuff like this, because this was pretty nasty. I mean, if you look at this trading pair here and you see what it's been doing over the past couple weeks, it's crazy. It's just trading like a meme coin. But here's the target is, we said, look, you know, if anything, they'll dump it down here and scam people to the downside, and you can see how it's looking like it's going to break that support here, or break that resistance at 126. You pull a fib here, going down to where it initially was tokenized right here on this particular exchange, and you can see how it's already breaking through the 786, but then you can maybe get it tight a little bit, maybe just put it down to from the top to the bottom here. And it's just, once it breaks the 786, I mean, this is pretty lined up, 138, but like, here you go. I mean, this would be the next level for oil to spike up to would be 142. And yeah, we screwed that trade. But, you know, I want to say we screwed it. We say we screwed the pooch, you know, but we could see what happens, let the Trump tweets come out, see what happens, see if they're going to continue to spike it, or will they sell it back down? Will this be a resistance point at 126? Because this is where we had previous resistance 3 different times, close to the 786. So still some momentum to trade on here. But all the while, we got to look at Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is looking really bad. Now, this is a bar pattern of where we broke down from the all-time high into the bear market of 2022. So this exact pattern was where we got a 16,000. So right here at 45 was the equivalent of the $16,000 Bitcoin. So the equivalent of this bar pattern actually came from here. So I took this pattern and just took, because look, if you look at this, it's doing the same thing. Here was the bear flag. Here was one bear flag, and here was the other bear flag. It was like down, and then it went down into another bear flag. You can see where, if you were to just like draw it out, you can see how that eventually just like that, it was a little tricky, but it broke down. And then you can see right here, that was where it also broke down as well. Just all basically giant, you know, kind of different structure of pennants, but still a pennant nonetheless that brought us down to 16,000. Now you look, and I bar patterned that. I just took all that, I took that pattern and I just put it over here. And it looks like this is what could be playing out here, my friends. Very similar, but why I'm still bullish, even though this is bearish. I mean, that is bearish as all get out. But why I'm bullish is this chart. Now I want to show you a chart that's not the Coinbase chart, because this is the bearish and bullish side. Now I'm going to show you. I know the people voted for Donald Pump, not Donald Dump. I know it's really bad, and a lot of, and I tell you what, a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump are feeling, you know, they're feeling some feelings right now. Let's just say the least. Okay, now why I am bullish is that if you put this on it's on a log scale chart of Bitcoin on Bitstamp from 2011, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different times where we went down 70 as low as 80%. The initial big drop was that 83%, but that was like in 2013. That was from like 226 all the way down to a low. Maybe that was way too low because it wicked. It was like a wick. So it wicked all the way down and crashed like 80%. Yeah, let down. Yeah, they just kind of, a lot of voters feel let down. But that's just what happens. You know, it's just a classic politician trap. They can get you with the propaganda, and basically what they used as propaganda this time was the sentiment for crypto people. They were like, let's get all these crypto voters, let's get all these people with the all these issues. Like a big one was like, okay, look, illegal immigrants. We felt like there was just like chaos. So we're like, we need order, we need structure, all that stuff. So then it was a perfect setup for the American people to say, oh, okay, well, surely we don't want to have Kamala or Tim Walz. They look crazy. And then tap in the assassin, basically now when you look at it and you watch it over and over again, now it's like so staged, because that's not how a normal scenario would operate. And a normal person, which he's not, he's psychotic, would not get up and be like, fight. No, you'd be like ducking your head. Someone just tried to shoot you in the head. You're going to like try and expose your head again to get shot again, like crazy person. So it's just not, So there's a lot of stuff that we feel like, wow, okay, yeah, we feel completely set up, because now we could be in a particular trap where Trump pulls a Zelensky and doesn't have elections and just stays in power. And then the whole theory that I used to never thought was possible is that Trump ends up doing a third term. And I was like, whoa, okay. So yeah, that's probably why people feel a little let down. I don't know, bamboozled. All the while, the Trump family's gloating about how much money they've made. All the while, 80% of American people are in debt. They're operating on credit, and they're having to work 7 jobs. They're paying way more taxes than all of the billionaires are paying, because they write off everything. So they don't really pay as much taxes as they say, because they just write everything off. They also put it into fine art and stuff like that. All the things that were taught to them at an early stage and not taught to you, because you need to be the pawn and the matrix cog in the system, my friends. Yeah, feel a little fucking little let down, excuse my language again. All right, so look, here's why I'm still bullish though. Even though Bitcoin can go down 69% if we end up going to 38, we could go to 38K. We could go to 38K. That's going down from all-time high 70%. That's hitting the ultimate support of 38 before we had the Bitcoin ETF. That means this whole time, if we would have just thought you long at ETF and you short at promise of Bitcoin strategic reserve, because that was it. That was like promise of Bitcoin strategic reserve. You long at ETF, they ran the ETFs up, and all of the Trump administration people that were part of the crypto, like David Nutsacks, part of the crypto czar, he stepped down. Bo Hines, he stepped away. Crypto advisor for the White House, he's gone. They all stepped away because they all made their money. They all made their money. They're all like, all right, peace. So where I say Peter Schiff was right, Peter Schiff recently was on, 4 days ago, was on the Iced Coffee Hour podcast. And this was the first time where I actually paid attention and listened to Peter Schiff more than I have in any other interview. And he really did hit on some good points. And so one of the main things, obviously, that people always ask and get him to talk about is like Bitcoin versus gold. Why would you, is gold a better, store value and asset over Bitcoin? Why Bitcoin doesn't have, any intrinsic value? There's some things that I definitely don't agree with Peter Schiff in this interview, because Peter Schiff doesn't mention AI really at all. And he doesn't, I feel like he would understand it. But the aspect of AI with crypto is that crypto is the end game for AI. Like AI is going to run everything, and the way that it's going to transact and move money and do all the things is through crypto. So you or me, we have to invest in those network rails, just like people were investing in Amazon for like kind of forward thinking that like, wait, they're trying to take over like all infrastructure. They're getting really good at this. Maybe they will end up controlling the freaking internet, which they ended up doing with AWS. See, when AWS goes down, how it disrupts an entire ecosystem of stuff. So, but Peter Schiff says he admits that if I would have diversified into Bitcoin in the early days, he was like, obviously, I mean, like, he was like, I would be then selling now. So he does point out the fact that, like, anyone who got into Bitcoin has kind of been dollar cost averaging, just like they would have gold, could see a return. But he just points out this fact that like Bitcoin is just a convincing the next person that to buy it higher, so then you can sell it and just on to the next thing. But that, it's kind of the similar thing with the stock market. The stock market has buyer sellers, it has order books, it has people buying and selling, and paper gold and paper silver. And so the market is just so dynamic now with what you can trade in and what type of liquidity, the pairs. There's tokenized stocks. Now there's tokenized gold. He talks about tokenized gold. So it is a lot to break down. And with Peter Schiff, he has a deep understanding of the markets. He's talking about a lot. But what I think he misses about the crypto aspect, not just like Bitcoin, but just like Ethereum, it's an application, it's code. That has value. Code has value. All the shit that we use on the internet is based off of code. And now the AI is writing the code with people in cooperation with team of people who understand how to make it work and fix the 404 or fix the whatever, broken links and all that stuff. People still have to do that. Like, AI is probably getting better, and they might have AI agents now that are running HTTP protocol fixing and stuff like that for stores, and just like being able to fix it now, or at least debug it super fast, because that's what I do with my stuff. Like when I've built my website and it has some broken thing or something doesn't work, like I'd throw it into AI and I say, this is the error message that I'm getting, and it will fix it. And it throws me a code that I can then now fix, and then I'll run and I'll keep chatting with it until I get it fixed. So I'm debugging my own website. So, but this is going to be powered with crypto. And so not the AI, like garbage that's just like fake AI stuff that like we've seen hit the market, you know, but there's going to be key ones that the industry actually will use, and that's what we need to be investing in. And then that's how, because like think about it, the market itself as crypto is only 3 trillion. One of these things hits massive and gets a huge like investment from OpenAI or Tesla or Elon or whatever. Any of these companies that have like all this freaking cash and have all this, you know, stock or whatever they can borrow against to invest in whatever it is. That's how one of these protocols or whatever it is, or AI agents that does it better than everyone else, is going to get the government contract or whatever it is. And then that's going to be on a particular blockchain, which might be, it's probably gonna be like Ethereum or something. And then that's how Ethereum gets to 10K over time. But we can't look at this and think like, okay, like that's it. Oh, okay, it's over. I just see it as it's just part of the game of volatility of going into of going into the next era. But Peter in this video, though, I agreed because it takes it. Because he was a guy that voted for Trump. There was a lot of things that he aligned with that I aligned with too. I was like, there was a lot of dysfunction. He was really strong on like the border policy. You know, you see the headlines in the news of like all this crazy stuff happening in the bordering states on the border that had massive problems. But then even sourcing out away from the border, you start to hear about people that were, you know, released by the Biden administration, or didn't have like they weren't extradited like they were supposed to. They weren't, you know, sent to, you know, out. It was just like catch and release or whatever. And then you hear about that same person committing some crime in some state somewhere where they, you know, drifted out, and you're like, what the heck is going on? And then you start to hear about all the DEI stuff, and then like just Biden just basically nowhere to be found. So then you go into what Trump was kind of campaigning on and on the campaign trail for his presidency. That was it. You know, you were just like, all right, I'm voting for Trump. And then if you were a crypto person, then you're like, Trump's coming to the Bitcoin conference, get all buttered up, and so now fast forward, it's like it's not really going exactly how we thought it would go. We were like, look, we don't want any wars. We've been involved with helping with Ukraine and Russia. We want that to stop. We're just like, and there's so much was happening, and now it just seems like it's ramped up. He was like, we're never going to go into any war. And now it's just like, now it seems like we're just going to be in this crazy, you know, Middle Eastern conflict that was just very, you know, like, look how Desert Storm ended up, you know, just like craziness. So he points out the fact that, you know, let's see where he talks about it. Yeah, just like, yeah, he was like, no new wars. That was the campaign, was no new wars. And then now we're putting ground troops. Like, now we're gonna have, you know, troops on the ground. And if you think about it, that's crazy. That's crazy. It's like, look, I know we have we have a crazy military. We got all this, like, you know, I just feel like this is just an excuse to have defense contractors that make weapons like Palantir. Like, guess what? Guess who's going to profit from people dying? Are these companies like Palantir, these defense contracts, like whatever it is that are selling these high-tech weapons. They're making billions of dollars because they're going to, quote, now test these ground like tech in Iran. And then also Iran probably, with their inner workings in the black market, probably has the same tech, and then now they're all trying to use it. So it's like such a setup system where the doom rattlers and the doom war rattlers are making so much money off of this in so many different ways, but we like to think it's simple and it's just like, oh yeah, it's just like control. But it really is all based on people within power making so much money that it's such a deep web when it comes to war profiting, that it's like oil, weapons, then they're actually like using people, and then that's like where it goes into the whole, conspiracy of it, where it's like blood sacrifice of human souls, because they're just like, here's 100,000 troops, Pentagon, yeah, let's go send 100,000 people to go do what? We were supposed to have peace in the Middle East, and now it's just like, yikes. There's no peace in the Middle East. Okay, so let's see. I want to watch a little bit of the clip.
The vast majority buy it because they think they're going to get rich. They think the price is going to go way up. And the only way the price of Bitcoin can go way up is if other people decide to pay more for it. But those people are buying it for the same reason that you're selling it. They think it's going to go up. So they have to buy it with the expectation of they'll find somebody else who will pay even more than they did. And the name of that is called the greater fool, right? Everybody is hoping that there's a greater fool than they are, who will pay a higher price for what amounts to nothing.
But isn't that true for anything?
No.
Housing,
No,
some
it's not.
stocks.
No, it's not.
Even precious metals. That someone's hoping, I'm going to buy gold at 5,000. It'll be worth 10,000 because you're going to print all this money and I'll make money from it.
Well, but there you're just preserving your purchasing power. But yes, a lot of people buy.
And that point, that they're making is true too, with gold. Like people still, like, when they're buying something, whether they're trying to preserve their wealth or not, they're trying to make sure that they're going to maybe potentially get a return on something. And gold, necessarily, when it comes to physical gold, is hard to sell at like top spot price. Like, for instance, gold right now is sitting at 4,500 an ounce, and if you were to take a bar of gold, like a bar of gold, an ounce of gold, you're not going to get, someone's not going to pay you like exactly 4,000. They're probably going to pay you like 15-20% under spot. And it's not going to be like a quick transaction. So the physical aspect of gold, and then someone having to, you have someone like some bank, some vault saying they have all the gold, and it's like Fort Knox. It's like, okay, is the gold actually there? Like, when I deposited the gold, did you like freaking send it off into a truck and ship it off to Switzerland? And then when I want to actually get the gold, like all my gold, are you going to give me my freaking gold? Do I have to have a chest of gold in my house? Do I have to have chests of gold with a laser security system? So this is my argument to kind of like say, look, that is fine. We can have the gold thing, but for the average person, I think Bitcoin makes sense. Like, for just like the average person, the average use case, the Bitcoin ledger does make sense. And then Peter Schiff then goes to say, okay, if it was just Bitcoin and it was only Bitcoin and there wasn't like all these other cryptos, then it would make more sense, and it would make Bitcoin, more scarce. So those are his arguments.
A stock or a piece of real estate because they think the...
Oh, and sorry, Emmanuel is asking, Daniel, please, what do you think about China accessing travelers' hardware wallets Dang, don't go to China. China already knows everything about us. Yeah, everything's on the blockchain. I mean, unless you're completely shielding every single transaction, the world kind of like if someone really wants to, or like a country wants to just like sift through all your crap, they probably already have, and they just will. And unless you've done every single freaking thing on like Monero or something, and you've just been using Tornado Cash and shielding stuff and whatever, which is, you definitely haven't, then they already know everything. But I haven't heard about that though. So, but I think if Trump, so apparently it's a 70% chance of Trump being impeached. 70% chance of Trump being impeached. Pretty wild. I wonder if they're going to dump a little bit of this oil price right back down to like 115. It looks like it's already hitting resistance right before the 786 here. Or it's almost, it's pretty much like it passed the 618, but it's like, woo, which means it would go right back down to 115, the 382, which is previous support. So I'd be looking for that. There could potential short here with oil. But don't listen to me. I'm an idiot. I've messed up so many different trades recently. So don't listen to me. I said in the Telegram, Vaughn 1, Dano 0. Everything that Vaughn said in the Telegram, shout out to Vaughn. Vaughn was dead on. So Vaughn gets an award. He was like, I'm short in hype. I'm short in everything. So he was right. But you can see though, I had the setup, the oil setup. You can see that was the trade, 111 right there. That was the target. Pretty dead on. Just was not sustained. Was not sustained. Moon Alpha says the midterms is in November. The economy may not make it that far at this trajectory. We may be at 45 trillion debt by then. Yeah, the debt clock is skyrocketing. It's spiraling out of control, and it makes sense because if you think about it, you know, the people's income haven't been able to keep up with what the cost of living is. Like your rent's gone up, the mortgage has gone up, everything's gone up. The prices of the groceries is still high, so the gas is going up now. So now, before it was like, okay, groceries were down a little bit, and then like the gas kind of spiked, and so we had some periods where it was like stuff was kind of like it was doing this, but now it's like rent's really high. You know, the cost of living is really high, like the groceries are really high, now the gas is really high, so now just everything across the board is just expensive. Just everything is just expensive. So that means now you have to work more, and and then so think about this. This is where the problem gets really nasty, and doesn't look too good technically for a big group of people. And this is worldwide, but specifically kind of targeting the United States. Think about like the average worker working, whatever it may be, retail, and I don't want to cut out restaurant. I'm not going to include restaurants because like there is a certain sector and of where it doesn't get hit. It gets hit, but it's like it still has some sustained power on it, because even we saw during COVID, people still tried to like go out and do stuff, even though it was like, you know, the world was, quote, you know, burning, getting completely locked down. But the whole case, and this is where the conundrum comes in. So you think about it. People are losing their jobs. There's no money. People don't have money to inject into the economy to then keep the companies that are propping up the stock market, like, quote, all of these services. So you have all of these things that we buy, which is like goods and services. These companies provide this. They're importing them. They're providing all of this stuff. And this is, quote, the same when it comes to the oil and comes to what other countries are providing and importing into America, which is a lot of stuff. We stop providing and manufacturing stuff in America. We have a factory problem. We don't have, and this is what Peter Schiff actually explains in the video, which I was like, it's a good explanation. And other people broke this down too, but it's the way that we have set up our economy now that we have purposefully relied on these other countries, because then there's all this like back money, back deals that profit that our politicians get paid for. Like they get all the, why do you think they get paid so much money and then we are all getting shafted with, and we are supplying the tax money with our income for this whole entire system that they've been manipulating this entire time. So what ends up happening is that there's no the people who are the consumers in this capitalist military industrial complex setup society over here, where there's no one has money to buy the goods and services that, quote, is propping up the stock market. So where's the money going to come from? And then these people don't have a job because it was taken by AI. So it's either going to be this full scale like revolution that kind of happens, or, quote, mini civil wars that could be breaking out in certain parts of the country, because there's thousands of people that don't have a job. They can't afford anything because the cost of living has gone up so high that there's nothing for them to do unless the state provides these people with a UBI, a, quote, universal basic income, and they dictate how much you get to have a month and what grocery store you get to spend it in. And then this is where it starts to go down that line of where we've talked about this on this channel. Is a UBI with crypto stable coins. Why do you think the Clarity Act and the Genius Act and all that stuff they're fighting for, the banks and all that? Because they're all talking about this and not telling you. They're telling you, oh, everything's fine, the stock, everything's going to be fine. No, it's not going to be fine. They're going to inflate it. They're going to do all some kind of crazy stuff, and it all ends up to where a big portion of people are going to end up being told what to do. They're going to be told when to spend it. And if they don't spend it, it just goes right back into the pot because it's a smart contract. And you heard it here first on this channel. You can go back to this, because this is what I think is like, it's not going to happen with everyone, because it all depends on you. It's like, are you going to be broken out of the matrix by that point? Are you going to unplug? Or are you going to be one of those people that are going to have to rely on getting a stablecoin UBI that they're going to tell you that you have to get a certain type of cheese? No. That's not what's going to happen. You're going to have a fridge full of Merlot cheese because you broke yourself out of the matrix. But just so you know, everything is a scam. So this everything is a scam. Everything's a massive scam. We got so scammed that we're going to 44,000. Probably the likely scenario here is we go to 40,000. 45. 45. Oh yeah. Well, I'll tell you what the biggest trap is. One of the traps is believing what any of these politicians say. I think the best thing that we can do is start to do more research on how we can actually have a voice and start like writing letters to the politicians, writing letters to the congressmen, the senators, the representatives of our states, and just like be like, look, like this, we don't want this crap. And, we demand that you guys do your job and stop like wasting our money, because it's our money. We forget that we actually do have that voice. If we sent in enough letters and put pressure on these people, like we probably could make a difference. But here's another trap, is the car payment trap. Like the car thing is like such a trap. Like, let other people buy a new car, but like if you're not buying a car cash, and even just buying a new car, the moment that you pull it off the lot, it goes down 20%. Like the moment you drive a new car off the lot, it immediately loses value and depreciates by like 25-30%. And not to mention, if you bought it from the dealership, you got the dealer fees, you got the the seller, all these different fees that they try and throw in there. They're like, oh, here's a rug package. You're like, no, I don't want it. And somehow they end up getting it in there somehow when you told them no. And you're like, how did the car end up being $10,000 more than what we initially walked in and said it was going to be? What did you just freaking like Men in Black, like flash me with the damn light? So that's a massive trap. They've trapped us years ago to try and think that like, getting a car payment was ever a smart idea. Whoever in your family or anyone in the world that ever told you getting a car payment was a smart decision to, quote, either build credit, you need to drop kick them in the chest. Just like full speed drop kick them in the chest. And you should say, why would you ever get me in a mindset that a car payment was ever a good idea? Like, you buy a car cash. I don't care if it's a clunker. Are you just driving to go to like Target and then to go to your job? I don't care what it is. Get a Focus. Get a Ford Geo Rio. I don't care what it is. Cash. So I learned my lesson now. I paid cash for the 2 cars I have now. No car payments. No stupid crap. I'll run those things into the ground. But to go and pay like $800 a month, which I see people now, because I'll listen to Dave Ramsey. People will call in to Dave Ramsey on local radio show, and they'll go, Dave, we just, my husband or I, he got laid off. And this is, I swear, this is the call. They go, we got into a house, we bought a house, and then we got jet skis, we got a car, we got a camper, and they're paying monthly for all this stuff. So they're like, the jet skis are $400 a month. They're like, the car, we got a Jeep, we got a big truck, whatever it is, some fancy new truck that they overcharge for. And that's like, they're paying $1,000 a month for the truck. They're paying $2,100 for rent. And then combined, all their expenses in the month exceed over $6,000. And then someone just lost their job. You see what happens there. You see how that trap happens, and see how that's the scenario for 50 to 60%, maybe even more of Americans have this scenario happening right now. So whenever we've said retail ain't ever coming back, it's because how could they? There's no money. There is no money to invest. That's it. So the last time that people had even a chance to even do anything, you gotta remember, COVID was only 5 years ago. We got stimulus checks and people, I looked at the figures, 80% of people you tried to use those to put it into something. And then 20 to 30% used it just like straight, they like just used it, like deposited it, didn't try to invest it. That was our only like shot. Yeah, and then the Jane Street, the CZs, the Binances, all this stuff had us, it seemed like we were almost there. And then you look at something like AVAX as a perfect example of like how they were just like, yeah, no, we're not giving you shit. They just brought the market right back down to where we were just in just 4 or 5 years ago. So but we can't say that we didn't have any like good times or opportunities. And it just shows that you had to have this kind of gambler's mentality. You had to have like this, you had to basically become one of these guys for a little bit. You had to become you had to become a broccoli-haired, vape cabal, tattoo-faced, like, dirt bag. And then all of a sudden, this is the arc. They wanted you to be thread guy, but then also pivot on a dime to then actually have to listen to Aiden Ross, which you're like, I'm not listening to Aiden Ross. He's retarded. And then and all these other people, they're like, wait, they're stupid too. Should I not listen to any of them? But then actually come to find out, Aiden Ross in this video, when they all came and were whiteboarding Aiden Ross was right. This person said Aiden Ross really predicted it perfectly. Yeah, there were no top signals. The bull run never happened. We were all supposed to know it. How were we supposed to know it would crash? I don't know. Dave Portnoy rugging 5 different Solana projects. Freaking 6ix9ine or whatever the heck his name is getting Solana tattooed on his forehead. This kid, freaking Aiden, or what this guy, whatever this guy's name was, I can't remember the dude's name with the Libra scam. Trump. Gosh, I mean, you could just keep going. But yeah. But gold, though, here's the deal, is that gold will go to this target. I think gold is going to get to $6,800 to $7,000, and then silver. Are they manipulating the crap out of silver? But they're not going to let it get below 60 because now they have this new act. My friend was telling me about it. There's a new plunge called the Plunge Act, and if it gets any, well, I guess it worked. Here's the Plunge Act in effect. They tried to put silver down past 63. They can't do it because at the moment it ever gets down at this level, the US government has to come in and buy it. So if that's the case, then that was the Plunge Act in effect. And every time it gets down to here is probably a moment that we could be buying paper silver or trading the paper silver, because look what just happened. If you look at the week, Or if you look at the daily, that's exactly what just happened. Plunge act in effect. And this is probably what they're going to do with gold and silver, because they need silver for all of their stuff. Like so the government, with the government contracts, you have to think about government contractually with the production of different chips and different things that we need. We can't have, I don't know. So there's something to be said here. I don't know, but could it go to $200? That would be insane. But that's been the price call. That it's going to probably bounce around and might bop down right back down to this support level, and then just start to take off, and then it has to break the resistance of where it hit that 120, and then that would be the next key zone. And then we're looking at resistance trade right now. The U.S. oil trade is probably still a trade that you could take going into 126. That would be a 3.4% move. You're looking at, if you're going into a leverage trade of a sort, you're longing right here, trying to take profit right there. Your stop loss would be at the previous breakout support. So at almost a 2-to-1 ratio trade here. Perfect 2-to-1 ratio trade here. That would be the setup, is your entry at 121. You can see here, if this support holds right here, then that is the target to hit for this particular trade. You can see it actually playing out right now. All right, that's the only trade I'm giving you for today. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Make sure you share the live stream. Yes, I think it's going lower. Damien is saying, it's going lower? I think so. And by the look of this bar pattern here, I think so. Yeah. Definitely looks like it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for hitting that like button. Make sure you go and check out this video. This was a month ago. I said the Black Swan event coming for crypto. I was like, I don't know what it's going to be. It was going to be like all the Binance CZ, like, 1010 stuff. It ended up being that this war was just fully escalated, and in conjunction with all of the liquidations that were happening, we were calling for some pretty bearish prices of it breaking down off of this bear flag, and it ended up, creating a second bear flag that is now kind of starting to break down. So my prediction, did play out, and but it's like, I don't want it to. I ended up becoming, bullish after it started to look like it was gonna recover in a full relief rally, but it was kind of a false relief rally. We might just have to, like we've said, pull the Band-Aid off and just get it over with. Just get the dang thing down to 45K already, and then we can go to $222,222 Bitcoin, because that would be the springboard to get to the actual real all-time high that I truly do think that we would have been in, but let's just say we got rugged a little bit. So all right, guys, appreciate it. Make sure you check out the links in the description of the channel. You can go here. Shout out to ChatGPT for helping me make a really awesome thumbnail. I think my thumbnail was really good. Bitcoin didn't go to zero, but yeah, it's probably going to go down 70%. So not completely zero, but like we said, Bitcoin has done this before. It's gone down 75% to 80% 5 times. So if it does it a 6th time, I think if it's recovered off every time it's gone down that much and has broken an all-time high afterwards. So like it goes down 73%, 80%, but then it goes up 500%, 600%, does like a 3x, a 5x, or whatever it does. You just kind of, that's the nature of it. It's volatility. So it's just, it is what it is. Like, we just have to be prepared to have like, so we need to be mining fiat right now, like getting as much cash flow as we possibly can, because you got to think, like, when Bitcoin hits 45K, you don't think that the institutions should be backing the freaking truck up to try and run that thing up again like they just did? They're like, look at what they did from 38. They ran it from 38 with the ETF and the hope of the strategic reserve and all that stuff, and having all the crypto people line up in a bunch of tables and talk with the president and be like, oh, thank you so much, Mr. President. I was so excited that you invited me to this table. And you know, it's like, they'll do it again. They'll do it again. Check out the links in the description. Let me know if you're going to take that oil trade. If you take the oil trade, you can take it on Apex, and you can take it on OURBIT, and I believe you could do it on PHEMEX. But right now we've been using OURBIT and Apex. OURBIT's actually running a trading competition for trading commodities and things like that. So look at this entry. This is the trade. The entry would be 121 to 122 right here for US oil, for the target TP being 125. That is the top of the resistance here from two different levels. You can see here breaking the 786. And so with that, I would be looking for something like that. All right. Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for being here. Hope you have a good rest of your day, good weekend, and may the light of the Lord Jesus Christ shine on you and your families and give you strength. And I pray that through these turbulent times, you can find some moments of peace and clarity to help you strengthen your journey in making a better life for you and your loved ones. All right. Peace out. Have a good weekend.